Okay, let's get started from the top here. Sorry about that, everyone. We should be able to see the screen updating right now. I'm going to cover a quick overview of some of the core attributes of Chargify's finance reports. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to just cover this real quickly again. The reports that we've created within Chargify are site-specific and are represented as accrual-based accounting. The first report is located in the Chargify application, and this is going to address the revenue of your site. The second report allows the functionality to export a CSV document of your accounting data for any given month in your site. And Chargify also makes these finance reports available to you on a month-by-month and a site-by-site basis. So moving on, I'd like to talk a little bit about who these reports are for within your organization. First off, finance and accounting departments. These reports are geared towards the individuals in finance and accounting, and they're going to be the folks that must reconcile and close the books on a monthly basis. We also created these reports for decision makers. These are the folks that need to better understand the revenue and collections of a site on a monthly basis, and for collections personnel. This is a very common usage of this style of report, and it's aimed at anyone that's interested in understanding more about how much revenue has not been collected for a site at any given time. So what do these reports focus on? Well, these reports focus on your total amount billed, your revenue, and your payments. We'll get into the details in a little bit, but first I want to ensure to give you the contents of what these reports actually contain before we move on. All right, now before we get into the details of the report, I want to quickly cover how to access the finance report. You're going to want to go over to your Analytics tab and select Crunch My Nums to create the report initially. Now, this report can take upwards of 1 hour to create. You'll only need to generate this report once. I want to mention a quick note on access as well. The new finance report is available for Chargify customers on our advanced or higher plans. If you find that you're on one of our legacy plans or perhaps the essential plan, go ahead and email support@chargify.com, and we'll be happy to work with you to switch you to one of our newer pricing plans that feature this report and other improvements. So here we have a sample of the revenue-based finance report that's displayed within your Chargify account. This is exactly what you're going to see when you select Finance from the Analytics tab. This report is broken down on a month-by-month basis that provides you with the total billed, revenue, and net revenue for your site. Now, as we take a closer look, we'll see that the top portion of the account of the report covers your sales. As we jump further into the sales portion of the report, we see all of the monthly totals of your recurring plans, your one-time charges, your add-ons, which will be your quantity and on-off components, and usage, which are your metered components. This report also contains your setup fees and trial fees if your data includes them. If you combine all of these numbers, the resulting figure will give you the total sales. Before we move on, I want to interject a few quick notes about finance reports with Chargify. Let's start with discussing the formatting of negative numbers on this report. Negative values displayed in the report will follow financial style formatting of expressing negative numbers surrounded by parentheses. I'd also like to mention that in the finance report, we use tooltips extensively. Hover over any of the tooltips to expose more data about a line item. And lastly, I'd like to mention that in the financial report, Chargify will show 13 months of current data on screen. Anything after and including the current month can be exported into a CSV document. Now we'll get to CSV documents a little bit later, but for now we're going to move on with taking a look at the contents of the actual on-screen reports and how to view them. So now we're back at the default view of the finance report, and we're going to take a look at the next section, discounts. Discounts are your coupon-based discounts. I want to point that out. So here we see the breakdown of the types of coupons used in your site. Note the usage of parentheses to denote negative numbers. And we can also see that the total breakdown of single-use, multi-use, and recurring coupons is presented here, with a total of the amount of coupon-based discounts at the bottom. So moving right along, we're going to take a short look at taxes. Taxes will be reported on a month-to-month basis and contribute to the total amount billed, but not the revenue. If you don't collect taxes, this line item may be omitted from your report. So as we take a closer look at the taxes portion of the sales report, we see a positive figure that represents the amount of taxes that have been actually collected. And this contributes to the total amount billed. But as we look to the revenue portion of the report, we see that taxes are represented as a negative number. This is because taxes are deducted from the total amount billed to correctly represent the revenue. As we go back to the financial report overview, we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at credits and void reporting. A quick note about credits and voids: these are not considered coupons. So under credits and voids, we see two main categories: proration and balance adjustments. When an upgrade or downgrade is made to a subscription and a credit is applied due to the unused portion of a plan, we'll see that expressed here as a proration-based credit. Additionally, if a balance adjustment is made to a subscription, it will be reported here. Basically, any reduction to revenue that is not a coupon is going to be reflected here. And at the bottom, we see a total of the amount of credits applied for the given months. Okay, so now that we've covered sales, discounts, taxes, and credits, I'd like to talk a little bit about total billed, revenue, and net revenue. Your total revenue is equal to your sales, including taxes, minus your discounts, minus your credits, and this will give you the figure of total revenue or total billed. Now subtract your refunds from your revenue, and that will result in the net revenue for your site. A quick note on refunds before we move on. Refunds are reflected in the month that the refund was performed, regardless of the date of the original payment. The result is a reduction of revenue for the month the refund was actually performed. A quick example, just to throw this out there. For example, if you bill an automatic subscription on January 31st and perform a refund on February 1st, the refund will be recorded in the month of February. All right, so let's move on to the payments portion of the report. Chargify has grouped payments into two types: automated payments and a check or invoice-based payments. Automated payments represent payments received from automatic billing, while checks or invoice payments are manually recorded payments. Total these two types of payments and you'll have the total collected for the month. When a payment is reported, whether or not it's invoice or statement based, the payment is reported in the month the sale was booked. The payments report also lists expected payments. This includes payments not yet received but are expected. The amount under in dunning is the current amount managed by the dunning process in Chargify. Unpaid invoices are exactly just that, the amount of invoices that are not paid in full. So now let's talk about uncollected for a moment. Uncollected refers to the total amount billed minus the total collected payments. And this will give you the figure in the amount of uncollected. Now, before we move on to the export portion of our webinar, I want to recap the basics. The Chargify Finance Report covers the total amount billed, the revenue, and payments and collections for your site. And they're all represented using the accrual-based accounting method. So moving on, let's focus on the second portion of the finance reports, exports. Simply click on the Export tab of the report, select a month you'd like to export, and you'll find this exported financial CSV document in your Downloads folder. Simply click on the upper right-hand corner of the Chargify application, and you'll expose the Downloads folder. So here is an example of the portion of exported data. You can see that it correlates directly with our previous examples that we discussed. Now, I'd like to mention that this data is available for you to slice and dice on an as-needed basis to meet your financial and accounting needs. As we look to the column header titled Category, we see that there are many entries of the sales type. Next to it, we have the subcategory of the type of sale it is. This can be recurring, add-ons, etc. The same goes for discounts and payments. Everything that is expressed in the monthly summary is expressed in detail here. If you're familiar with Chargify's current exports, I like to think of this report as a combination of the subscription and transactional export, except it contains much more data than those two reports combined. This report also expresses many more data points about a particular sale, discount, or payment. Too many to list, in fact. So in this case, we recommend viewing the documentation about exports for a further explanation of the data. More information on finance reports can be found by going to our help site, which is help.chargify.com. And this information can be located under the Reports section, and then directly under Finance Report.